It's time. Time to get inspired and empowered. To realize it's never too late to create your next amazing story. Get ready to break through, transform, and start living the life of your dreams. So, are you ready? Truly ready to begin your journey to create your next amazing story in life and love? Great. Let's jump in with your host, Life and Love Transformational Coach, Suzanne Oshima.
Welcome, everybody, to the It's Never Too Late show. I'm Suzanne Oshima, and I'm a Life and Love Transformational Coach at Your Next Amazing Story. Today, we have a very special guest, Aurora Farber, and she's a feminine leadership coach. And today, we're talking about it's never too late to ignite your feminine fire. So, welcome, Aurora. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, great. Well, before we jump into how a woman could ignite her feminine fire, I would love for you to share with the ladies, how did you actually become a feminine leadership coach?
Well, I was living in Shanghai, China at the time, and I was a stay-at-home mom. I had two kids of probably 2 and 6 years old, and I had kind of gotten to the point in my life where I had loved being a mom, but I wanted something more. And so I started to really listen inside. What was it? I had thought about being a therapist for many years. I love working with dreams and people. And so I just listened in, and I decided that where I was living, because I was living in Shanghai, it wasn't really easy for me to become a therapist. And the other was coaching. And I also realized that I really wanted to help women. I always knew that I wanted to help women. I wanted to help them thrive. And so coaching is a profession that helps you move from, just where you're at to a greater life, greater possibilities. So that's how I became. I got my certification online, and I've just been doing it ever since.
Awesome. Well, you and I have that in common, is that we both want to empower and inspire women to become the best version of themselves. So, this whole thing about femininity, and I know you talk a lot about feminine fire. So what is feminine fire?
Yeah, so I love to explain and describe feminine fire, feeling into that element of fire, fire that represents your passion, fire that lights up, fire that was the gift of the gods, right, to man, so that we could move forward in our life. And when you pair that with feminine, there's this aspect of igniting that part of ourselves to show up more fully in the world. And for me, I love to break it down into 3 aspects, into 3 flames. One is power, the other flame is love, and the other flame is wisdom. And the reason I feel that's so important is that in our world today, our world is really on fire. There's a lot of problems, a lot of chaos, there's a lot of destruction, and it's really caused by the imbalance, the lack of harmony, not only on the outside of the world, but in ourselves, of our own feminine and masculine energy. And so that feminine fire is a new model of leadership. Before, we had power as the main flame, and it was generally power over hierarchical masculine structure that had women be put in a lower level, right? We didn't have rights. And so it's partly too igniting that remembrance of our power as women, our power to create life, which is so amazing, and balancing not only with that kind of power, but with the power of love to heal what's in the darkness, to heal what has been cast aside, and the power of wisdom, of our own intuitive knowing, to help guide us as we begin to express our power in the world.
So would you say that in the dynamics of intuition, would you say that women are far more intuitive than men? Or do we just know how to tap into it better?
Well, I think, that's a really great question, because I really believe that the masculine and the feminine are in male and female, regardless of your gender. But perhaps because women have not been able to express their power so outwardly in the world, they've learned to come inside. And it is, if you think about masculine and feminine, not in the sense of gender, but in the sense of like yin and yang. That's a really great way to look at it. Think of light and dark, of the sun and the moon, those ways in which we're able to distinguish the difference between energies, right? So in that yin, the feminine, the moon, that is where women generally have really been able to feel their power in their intuitive knowing. And so I think that women as a gender have had more practice in being intuitive. And we also have a moon cycle, like we are aligned with the moon. So the moon also offers us pathways to intuition. But I think men are also intuitive. And that's part of the hospitalization that, I seek to help create and co-create in the world like you do.
Awesome. Well, so how is it that you personally actually discovered your own feminine fire?
Yeah, so it's interesting because like many of us, I went through an initiation, a challenging period of my life. And working through that initiation is what brought me to where I'm at now. And so for me, I was telling you before, I was in Shanghai and I had lived there. I lived there about 10 years. My children were there. I raised my kids there. And I love being a mother. Like it's one of the best pathways I found. It's really, I wrote a chapter in the New Feminine Evolutionary, and motherhood has really been my pathway of evolution. So I loved mothering, but still there was something inside of me that there was a spark, like a calling that was mine, that would belong only to me. And I had kind of a guilt about it because I thought, well, how can I be a good mom and still ignite my feminine fire? How can I get my passion out in the world? And then what on earth is my passion? When you're steeped in mothering for so long, you're so into dirty diapers and, Band-Aids and spending time with your kids that you kind of forget what lights you up. But I was at that point, and really how it happened for me is I had a dream. And in my dream, I dreamt that there was this man at a party, and I was sitting there in a wheelchair, actually. And I saw this man, and I went up to him, and I call this dream character Mr. Wig because he obviously had a wig on. And I thought, oh, he's important. And I went up to him, and I began to speak to him, and he just kind of looked over me because he didn't think I was valuable. Like he didn't think he could really get anything, couldn't make any connections or anything like that. That was my own disowned masculine. That was the part that I had projected on the masculine, why I couldn't get out there in the world, because if I did, I would become heartless, I would become too ambitious, everything would be about my ego, right? So on the other side, there was another woman, and she was in a baseball field, and she was singing gospel music with a lot of people, really connecting, heart opening, and I called her Joy, but she was serving everyone, and she didn't think about herself. And so when I woke up, I was like, how sometimes you can feel a dream is very important in your life?
Yes.
For me, yeah. So I knew it was important, and I could feel how that was related to my own life. I was in more of the joy phase. I was over into the feminine, and I was giving so much of myself, and I didn't really think of myself except for that little spark inside of me that wanted something, but I was afraid of it because I thought if I ignite that fire, I would become like in my ego, wanting only power because I had disowned my own masculine. And so that's one of the ways in which women can, mothers especially, because they're in that process of overgiving and overnourishing, they forget to mother themselves. But then there's also the other side. Like I work with many women who have experienced the opposite, where maybe they are too much in the corporate world, too much in that masculine drive, and they're exhausted. And we don't have so many models as women on how to have balance in our lives. And we do want to be great moms. We want to give and love and receive love. We want to have, our homes organized. And, we want this balance, right? And then we're also wanting to make our mark in the world. And it's really overwhelming because we've had thousands of years of a different kind of model where women stayed home and took care of the home, and the roles were really defined. And so now we're at this point where we can go out, we have the power, but how do we live in this world when we don't have a lot of these models? And so that's why I'm so excited to speak to you because you're a voice and kind of a beacon for women to say, oh, let me hear stories of other women and how did they do it? How did they dare to show up, and how did they balance and create something, create a mythic life?
Yeah. So, it's interesting, Aurora, how you shared your story about how you were putting your kids first, mothering them, and which is normal, right? It's a mothering instinct. But what I also find, and please share if you find this with some of your clients, is it's not just with women and their children, but it can happen in relationships where a woman could put the man first, and not that, your partner, your husband, your boyfriend, whatever, fiance shouldn't, be important. But sometimes I find where women could put the man above her own needs. And so then at a certain point, she starts to feel like her own basic needs aren't being met. And so can you speak more into that?
Yeah, I love that question because, again, it's about creating an integration, harmony in our lives, right? And so some of us, and it's also about not making one better than the other. Some of us might have more of a masculine kind of young energy, go out there, producing. And it's not that that's bad. It's when you, in your own knowing, and that's where that flame of intuition comes in, to be able to check in with yourself, like, is this too much? Am I exhausting myself? That's when that flame comes in to kind of rebalance you. But if you want to stay home and you love connecting with your family, and that is really what your flame is about, it's not to make one better than the other. It's to be in harmony in yourself. And that's, when I think about the disharmony that's in our world, I mean, you can see it with the planet. Like, we have over the masculine for 2,000 years has helped us to create so many advances, but it's been out of balance. It's been at the expense of Mother Earth, climate change, and all of that, because there's never been that check. Because anyone who feels into their heart and says, okay, are we out of balance? We know we're out of balance. We can see it outside in the world, and we can do that for ourselves. So that's the same thing in relationships. When we are in a relationships, one partner, it may be the woman that has more of the masculine energy. It may be the man that has more of the feminine energy. It's not to make that wrong. I mean, one of the things that I really take a stand for is to break down those old models of this is the way we need to be. Like, I need to be a man, a real man. I need to be a real woman. That kind of stuff. It's being able to know who we really are and stand in that authenticity. And it is great when in a relationship if one carries more of the pole than the other. Because if we're totally in balance, right, it's kind of boring. Right?
Well, it can be, but sometimes that's better than like chaos, right?
Or
Well, let's
extremes too, right? It can be too chaotic and a little crazy. You're right.
Yeah, exactly. So, let's talk about, because we as women carry both, you were talking about this, both masculine and feminine energy. And I find a lot of my strong, independent women clients, and there's nothing wrong with that, carry more masculine energy. And what I see happen a lot is that can sometimes negatively affect dating, because what I find is, most of my strong independent women clients that are very more on the masculine side, and when I say that, I don't mean like they dress manly or like that. They just have more of that driving energy, get things done, take the lead, is they're more attracted to alpha males. And alpha males, as we all know, carry a lot of masculine energy and less of the feminine energy. So in your experience, do you see that when a woman carries more masculine energy and she's attracted to that alpha type male, that they can butt heads, or can it work? Can it not work?
Yeah, well, I think that's a great initiation. Like I was saying, it's a challenge that comes up that can be kind of a mirror to our own ways of being in the world. So there's a reason that these strong masculine energy carrying women are attracted to alpha males. There's, for me, there's a part of us that wants to come into balance with their own femininity. And so by being attracted to an alpha male, they're more masculine than the masculine woman, right? And so there's a way in which they can be held. I think deep inside all of us, male and female, we want to be held. We want to be held. We want to be seen. We want to be recognized. And for women, especially women, and we're so lucky, Suzanne, I think about it when I watch TV shows, like the power that women didn't have before. We have so much power. But like I said earlier, we don't have a lot of role models that can help us find that path. And so, for women who have really created a lot of success in the outer world, who have more of that, producing young energy, they have really stepped up in their power, right? And yet, where's their balance of their femininity? Where is that place where they can fall? It's almost like we, in gaining our power, we've had to fight for it. And what the truth is that we are powerful without fighting. I always go back to this idea that we as women can create life in our womb. I mean, there is no power greater than that. And how do we do it? We don't fight for it. It's just natural to us. This power resides inside of us. And so I think in those kind of relationships where there's a disharmony, whether it's in that example or in another example of maybe there's too much inactivity, yin energy, maybe there's just kind of a passive relationship with not a lot of spark, that's an opportunity, an initiation to say, how can I integrate my own? Like, where is my balance of power? Because those men also, those alpha males, they've been trained for thousands of years to be real men. And so they're also coming into balance with, how do I tap into my femininity? Because my femininity can nourish me too. I don't have to seek it outside of myself. A lot of alpha males are attracted to women who are very much in their feminine too, because it's the traditional model. It provides a balance on the outside. But what I believe that where we're at in our society and in our spirit now is we're looking for the integration on the inside.
Right,
the integration of masculine and feminine.
Right. So now, if a woman carries more of the masculine energy, and I actually had this happen a couple months ago, I had a client say to me, and she carried more masculine energy, and I was inviting her to step into more of her feminine energy and the feminine side of herself. And these were her exact words. She said, "I don't even know what that means." Like, she didn't even know how to do it. So if any woman in this audience is going, okay, Aurora, that sounds great, but I don't know how to do it, what would you say to her?
Right. That's a great question. And that is a great awareness, because how do we do it when we've been fighting so hard to claim our power? Well, I think first is realizing that the power resides within, that there's a way in which we don't have, the masculine energy is pushing, and it's great. It can create a lot of change, but the feminine energy is yielding. It's magnetizing. It attracts. It's magnetic, right? And why do we become magnetized by someone? Because they are stable in their own inner knowing of their power. So for me, it's really about igniting that feminine fire, keeping that flame burning, and especially for women who carry that masculine energy, to watch out for burnout, because that's what happens. We have this model of power of, okay, I have to work all the time. And, I love to put this in the context of the cosmos, of the sun and the moon. If you think about the sun, that's the masculine, right? The sun is a 24-hour cycle, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That's how a lot of us live. We live based on our calendars, those little boxes where we stick our life in there. Mm-hmm. But the moon cycle is not like that. That's a great, if any woman who's listening to me just can feel into that. Feel into what it's like to wake up every morning, to go to work, to check the boxes, to get it done, to go to sleep, to wake up. It's like a repetitive cycle. And there's really unless you're very intentional, there's no place to re-nourish ourselves. And then feel into the moon cycle. It's very different. The moon, if you think about the moon in the sky, it's not always this bright, shining orb. Sometimes it's dark, you can't even find it. Sometimes it's full, and there's all those stages in between. And that, to me, is how we're meant to live. As a woman, we carry the moon cycle in our bodies. The moon cycle is 28 and a half days or so. Our menstrual cycles are 28 and a half days. This is how we create life, our source of power, right, as creatrixes. And so that flow of knowing and to really claim as part one is that I am powerful by being who I am. And two is my source of power in my birthright is to expand and contract. It is not to be always on, always going, always making the plans, thinking ahead, being in the future, right, or being in the past. It's to be in the present. And it's also to know that there are times for us to come back in, like the dark moon, the new moon, times for us to dream, time for us to take action, like in the first quarter moon, time for us to show up, be on podcasts, to ask for raises with the full moon, times for us, and then this is the kicker, from the fullness of our lives to actually take time to slow down, to say, I'm going to slow down, I'm going to get things done, and then I am going to rest. Rest, to me, is one of the secrets of finding your femininity. And it can be hard if you've not rested. If you've thought that busyness is a sign of worthiness, busyness is proof of my power, then it can be hard to rest. But that's our birthright. That's encoded in ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
So that it sounds like to me is that it's more when you're stepping into your masculine, it's more about the doing versus the being, which is more the feminine. And you're so right. It's when we attach our self-worth to our success in business or in what we do in life then it's hard to stop, right? It's hard to stop just the doing and step into the being and start taking care of ourselves and really focusing on taking the time out for yourself and healing and just being. And it's okay to not do anything, right?
Right. Yes, it is. And when you're really integrated in your masculine and feminine, I want to share a little bit more of the story about how I ignited my feminine fire. I had that dream, and I knew that it was important to me. And I also didn't know, well, what would it mean to step into my masculine, except that I would become like this ego-driven, heartless, opportunity-seeking person, right? That's all the information I got. But I knew that there was an integration. And so I did a process called active imagination with the two characters. And I actually, because I'm a writer also, so I had them write. I had them dialogue through my writing. And it was very interesting because I got to see the benefits of the masculine, of that, what you're saying, that energy that's forward moving, that's producing, that is looking ahead, that's wanting to provide a structure for our lives. And I also got to see the beauty of Joy, that character that was really in the moment, that was wanting to serve others. And so when they were dialoguing, they asked each other, well, how can we get along? They were completely different people. And Joy said, I know, we can dance. We can partner and dance. And so Joy, in her joy, she was just like dancing, like freestyle all over the place. And Mr. Wig was kind of like, no, I'm not going to do that. He had his rules, right? But then he said, I know, let's tango. And so I want to offer that story and that image to women who are looking to put more balance in their lives, that image. So I ended up painting this big painting of that image where he provided that structure. The tango, it requires very solid structure. He had his arm up, and the woman, she took up 3/4 of the painting. She had a dress that was on fire, because when we are in our own selves again, when we can claim our masculine structure to help us, to guide us, to be solid and dependable, then our femininity can flow. And if you think about the tango, that's what's so magnetic about it. The woman is just magnetic, and she's not magnetic by herself. She's magnetic because she has the structure of the man to lean on. That's why she can do all those amazing turns and dips and all of that draws us in.
I love that image of a couple doing the tango because I really got the sense of this flow, and her trusting the process and just allowing him to lead and just really stepping into her feminine. I love that. I love that. So, Aurora, do you have any last thoughts on how a woman could step into her feminine?
Yes. What I was going to say is that, this idea of being able to dance in the mystery and to dance in the unknown is such a valuable skill to have right now, because there's a lot of things that are unknown in our world. And one of the ways in which women historically have disempowered themselves is power leaking or projecting their power onto others, allowing others to, well, not even allowing, they just had to be in a system where they didn't have power and they had to follow the structures that are outside themselves. So I would say it's really fundamental for women to reclaim and integrate their own masculine and feminine in their lives, to create structures of support in their life. So that's structures of support through friendship, through coaching, whatever that is. And also to find their feminine flow. And for me, one of the great compasses that we can use is the moon. So we have, and we have this every day. We have the sun that shows us, we get up in the morning, we have our calendar, we have our structure, but we also have our moon. And so how can we bring more of lunar living into our solar world? And for me, it comes through embracing those 4 phases of the moon, the new moon and the full moon at opposite poles, and then those quarter moons on each side. And each of those, and my the way that I work with women, is attached to an archetype. And so, because for women, following the moon cycle is kind of like, what? I don't really even pay attention to the moon. So there's a way in which you can use archetypal energy. And archetypal energy, basically, an archetype is a pattern of consciousness that we all recognize intuitively. So, for example, the mother archetype, if you think of Mother Teresa, you think of her. If you think of Marilyn Monroe, you might think of the goddess archetype. Or if you think of Maya Angelou, that's the sage. So these 4 archetypes of mother, queen, goddess, and sage are attached to each of those phases. So in the mother phase, that's the time to nurture herself. That's her superpower. In the queen phase, that's the time to take action, to listen in from the mother, to begin to take action. And systems and support are the queen's superpower. Just like a queen who has a queendom, she looks out for everything. She's got that kind of logical mind to say, okay, this is missing, I need this. Then the full moon phase is the goddess. And that's the time when we get to open our heart and strengthen that flame of love, connect with others, become magnetic. And then the final phase is the sage at that 3rd quarter moon, which is the time, like I said before, that we often forget, that we forget to go back in. And it's one of the most important times. It's the time to finish things. So her superpower is completion and letting go. This is also one of our superpowers as women, is to be able to let go. Our bodies do this monthly, and we can do this energetically. One of the ways that we suffer the most is by holding on to limiting beliefs. But with the moon cycle, you can go through those 4 phases. Every moon cycle is an opportunity to transform your life a little bit more.
Oh, I love that. It's true, because most women don't even think about, I don't, the moon cycle, but you brought it into a different perspective. So, Aurora, this has been amazing. So can you tell our audience how they can find you?
Yes, I would love to offer your audience a free gift and an opportunity to find out how they can see which of these 4 phases of the moon is calling to them, mother, queen, goddess, or sage, and they can go to aurorafarber.com/quiz. And there's a quiz that you can take to find out which of those phases, what superpower she might help you claim, and what are those shadow aspects that you might still be living that are up for letting go and creating something new out of.
Awesome. So, ladies, if you would like to find Aurora, please, you can click on the link on this page, or like Aurora said, you can go to the link that she just mentioned. Thanks, everybody, for joining us on the It's Never Too Late show. If you like our show, it's available both in video format and audio format, and you can get both of those at yournextamazingstory.com. And if you would like to get our free ebook, How to Create Your Next Amazing Love Story in 3 Simple Steps, you can click right here on the video, or you can go to yournextamazingstory.com.
Love today's episode of the It's Never Too Late show? Then head on over to yournextamazingstory.com to continue the conversation, get access to show notes, and get more amazing content.